And here, as a preamble to the entire Anastasia book film series, which is now being published for the 6th volume, here come a few chapters from the 4th volume, Creation, where the family domains, kinship domains, are explained beautifully. For those who don't know the idea yet, but also for those who already know the idea. It is very well described what paradise a kinship domain is that is alive. And this is gonna be one of the masterpiece core movies that are going to spring out of the whole very precious Anastasia material. Read from the fantastic translation that is available through John Woodsworth. And this is also like an extended edition for the German viewers. Much more pictures had place in here, as the Woodsworth translation is richer in details and deepness. Chapter 26. Even today, everyone can build a home. The most important thing, Vladimir, is that even today, everyone can build a home. Everyone can feel God with their soul and live in paradise. One single moment is all that separates paradise from people living on the earth today. Each one possesses conscious awareness within. When dogmas do not interfere with this awareness, then look, Vladimir, what can come to pass. All at once Anastasia brightened. She grasped hold of my hand and led me to the shore of the lake, where there was a patch of bare sand, and started talking to me along the way. She says, "It only takes a moment. You will understand everything in just a moment of time. And everyone will understand, the readers, yours and mine. Within themselves they will define the essence of the earth and become aware of their destined purpose. Right this moment, Vladimir. See, right this moment we shall in our thoughts build our home. I and you and all of them too. And I assure you indeed that the thought of each one of them will be brought into contact with the thought of God. The gates of paradise will open. Let us go, let us move with more speed. I shall draw it with a stick upon the shore. We shall build a home together with those who into contact with your written words will later come. All human thought will merge together into one. Believe me, people have God's ability within them to turn whatever they conceive into reality. And many a home will stand upon the land, and each one in their own homes will be able to grasp everything firsthand. They will be able to feel and understand the aspirations of the divine dream. We shall build a home, I and you and all of them together. Hold on there, Anastasia, says Vladimir. There are a whole bunch of different designs out there for homes where people are living now. What sense can there be in proposing yet another one? Anastasia says, Vladimir, you must do more than simply listen to me. You must feel everything that I outline, and mentally complete yourself the whole design, and let everyone else draw it along with me. Oh God, people, at least give it a try, I beg of you. Anastasia was literally trembling with joyful excitement. She was reaching out to people, and I found myself growing more and more interested in her design. And at first it seemed simple to me, yet at the same time I had the feeling as though this recalls Anastasia was revealing to everyone a most extraordinary secret. The whole secret was in utter simplicity, and if I can remember the events in order, this is how they all went. Anastasia continued. First, choose for yourself a place of your own you like best of all the pleasing spaces of the earth. A place where you would like to live, and would like your children to live out their lives. And then you will indeed leave to your great-grandchildren a fitting memorial to you. The climate, too, in that place must be favorable for you. Take 1 hectare of land in that place for yourself in perpetuity. Footnote: an hectare is a designating area 100 meters square or 10,000 square meters, approximately equivalent to 2.5 acres in the imperial system. And Vladimir says, but nobody can just come along and take any piece of land they jolly well desire. Land today is sold only in places where people wish to sell it. She says, yes, unfortunately, everything happens this way today. Our motherland is extensive, but there is not a single hectare of your land where you can create a corner of paradise for your children and descendants. And yet the time has now come when we must begin acting on this cause, and take advantage of the most favorable of all existing laws. And he says, I don't know all the laws, of course, but I'm sure there's no law allowing someone to take possession of a parcel of land in perpetuity. Farmers can rent a good deal of land, but only for 99 years. She says, well then, we can start by taking it for a shorter span of time. But we need at once to plan a law so that everyone may have his own parcel of ground, his own motherland. Whether or not and to what degree the country flourishes as a state depends on this. And if there is no appropriate law at the moment, well, you will have to make one. And he says, that's easier said than done. Our laws are made by the State Duma. It has to make some amendment or introduce a new article into the constitution. And the parties in the Duma are constantly fighting with each other. There is no way they can settle the land question. And here a footnote to a party. In 2005, the Russian Motherland Party, Rodnaya Partia, was established with the specific purpose of bringing forth legislation on allocating pieces of motherland to people in form of family plots, just as Anastasia proposes here. In fact, the name Rodnaya Partia was suggested in Book 8, Part 2 of the Ringing Cedars series, published shortly before the new party was announced. End of note. She says, then if there is no party capable of enshrining into law everyone's right to their motherland, you will have to form such a party. And he says, and who will set it up? And she says, those who will read about the home we are creating and become aware of what a motherland means to each one, to each man living today, and to the future of the whole earth. And he says, well, enough about political parties. Tell me rather about this unusual home of yours. I'm really interested now in what new design you can possibly bring forth. Let's say someone has come into possession of a hectare of land. Not exactly a paradise, but say one grown over with wild grasses. They are probably not going to give him better than that. And there he is, standing on his hectare of land. What next? Anastasia says, think about it yourself, Vladimir, and dream a little too. What could you do? if you were standing on your own land. Chapter 27. A fence. Vladimir continues. First of all, I said, everything, of course, must be enclosed by a fence. Otherwise, when they bring in building materials to construct the manor house, somebody could come along and pilfer them. And when you plant a crop, it might be stolen before you harvest it. Or are you against fences on principle? Anastasia says, I'm not against them, Vladimir. Even animals mark out their own territory. Only what are you going to make the fence of? He says, what do you mean, what of? Fence boards, of course. No, wait. Fence boards can turn out to be on the expensive side. For starters, you need to dig post holes and string up barbed wire all around the property. Even then, you should still put up boards so people wouldn't see inside the fence. And she asks, and how many years could a board fence last without needing repair? He says, if it is constructed of good material, if you keep it painted or varnished and smear the parts of the posts that are in the ground with pitch, it might go 5 years or more without needing repair. And she asks, and then? And he, then you would probably need to do some repair work and touch it up to keep it from rotting. She says, so that means you will constantly have to fuss over the fence, and it will give your children and grandchildren even greater cause for concern. Would it not be better to construct it so your children will not have to bother about it, and so that their view will not be spoiled by the sight of rotting timber? Let us think how to make the fence more solid and long-lasting, so that your descendants may have fonder remembrances of you. Vladimir says, of course, you can build it so it will last longer. Who wouldn't want that? For example, you could make brick pillars and a brick foundation and put cast iron grill work in between. That kind of fence doesn't rust. It can even last 100 years. But only very rich people can afford to build a fence like that. Can you imagine? A whole hectare, that's a perimeter of 400 meters. A fence like that's going to set you back several 100,000 rubles, maybe even millions. Still, it will last a good 100 years, maybe 200 or more. You can even have it made with all sorts of family monograms. Your descendants will look at it and remember their great-grandfather, and it will be the envy of everyone around. Anastasia says, envy is not a good feeling, Vladimir. In fact, it is harmful. And he says, well, there is not much you can do about that. I tell you, enclosing a hectare of land with a good fence is not something many people can afford. And she says, that means we must think up some other kind of fence. And he says, what other kind? Can you suggest something? And she says, would it not be better, Vladimir, in place of a whole lot of posts, which can later rot, to plant trees? He says, trees? And then what? Nail boards? And she says, why nail boards to them? Look there in the forest. There are a lot of trees growing with their trunks only 1.5 to 2 meters apart. He says, yes, you're right, but there are holes between them. It's not the same as a fence. She says, but it is possible to plant bushes in between them that people cannot get through. Take a careful look and think what a splendid living fence you would have. And it would be just a little bit different with each person. And everyone would come to admire the view. And the descendants in the ages to come will remember the creator of the splendid hedge. And the hedge will not only save them time on repairs, but will bring them benefits as well. It will serve, in fact, as far more than just a barrier. One person will make a hedge out of birches growing in a row. Another one will use oak. And someone with a creative impulse will make a colored hedge, the kind one reads about in fairy tales. And he asks, "What do you mean, colored?" And she says, "Planting different colored trees. Birches, maples, oaks and cedars. Some may intertwine a rowan tree with clusters of bright red berries, and still plant guelder roses in between, and make room for bird cherry trees and lilac bushes. After all, you can plan it all out in advance. Each planter should watch to see how high each one grows, how it blooms in the spring, what kind of a fragrance it has, and what feathered friends it attracts. Thus your hedge will be both sonorous and pleasantly fragrant, and you will never get tired of looking at it, as the picture will be changing its tints with each passing day. It will flourish with colors anew every spring, and every autumn burst forth in an explosion of fiery hues." Vladimir says, "Well, Anastasia, it seems you're a poetess as well. We began with just a simple fence, and now see what you've all made of it. You know, I really like the way you've turned the whole thing around. And why haven't people thought of this before? No painting required, no repair. And when the trees get too big, they can be cut down and used for firewood, and people can plant new trees. They can change the picture, just like an artist. The only thing is, won't it take a long time to plant that kind of a hedge? And if you're going to plant the trees 2 meters apart, then you've got to dig 200 holes for the saplings. And then plant the bushes in between. And no technology will be allowed, you will say?" Anastasia says, "On the contrary, Vladimir. There is no sense in rejecting technology for the project at hand. Indeed, any invention of the dark forces must be put to use to serve the forces of light. It will hasten the implementation of the plan if you use a plow to dig a trench around the perimeter of the ground lot and plant the saplings in it, along with the seeds at the same time. For the bushes you have decided to plant between the trees. Then you can go over it again with the plow to fill in the soil. While the earth is still loose, you can adjust the position of each sapling to even out the row." And Vladimir, "That's fantastic. So in 2 or 3 days, one person can put up a whole hedge." "Yes." He continues, "The only drawback is that until the hedge grows, it won't deter any thieves, and people will have to wait a long time for it to grow, especially in the case of oak and cedar." And she says, "But birch and aspen grow quickly, and the bushes between them will not take much time either. If you're in a hurry, you can plant 3 saplings 2 meters high right away. When the birches are grown, they can be cut up for household use, and their places will be taken by the maturing cedar and oak trees." And he says, "Okay, then a living fence is something I can grasp. I really like it. Now tell me, what style of house do you see on the ground lot?" Anastasia says, "Perhaps we should first plan out the lot as a whole, Vladimir." And he says, "What do you have in mind? Different beds for tomatoes, potatoes, cucumbers? That's usually women's work. House building is a man's job. I think you need to build one large house right off. A fashionable manor house in the European style, so that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren will remember you fondly. Then there can be a smaller cottage for the servants. It's a pretty big lot after all. It will require a lot of work. And Anastasia says, Vladimir, if everything is done properly from the start, there will be no need for servants. Everything around you will serve you with great pleasure and with love. And not only you, but your children and whole family and your grandchildren too. And he says, it doesn't happen that way with anyone, even with your beloved techniques. Note, here comes a longer footnote that is almost about 10 pages and is a beautiful add-on into what already is happening about creating this vision in Russia back in 2006, and this will be put to the end so we can continue here with the chapters, and it is a beautiful outlook at the finish lines of these chapters. So I continue. He says, even with your beloved techniques, what means gardeners, this doesn't happen. They only have 500 or 600 square meters, yet they're working it every free day from dawn till dusk. And here they're going to have a whole hectare. It's going to take at least a dozen dump trucks every year just to bring in the fertilizer and manure. First, the loads of manure have to be spread over the whole growing area, and then all the earth has to be dug up and turned over. Otherwise nothing will grow right. And you'd better add some kind of fertilizer. You can get it in special stores. If you don't fertilize, the soil won't give a good yield. It's something agronomists, people who study agriculture, know, and techniques have learned from experience. I hope you agree on the need for fertilizer. Anastasia says, of course, the earth needs fertilizing, but the task need not to be devitalizing. God has thought through everything in advance, so that the ground in the place you wish to live will turn out to have the right nutrients and be in an ideal condition, without wearisome physical efforts on your part. You need only make contact with His thought and feel the wholeness of the system. He has designed, instead of just relying on your own intellect in making decisions. And he asks, then why is nothing fertilized today anywhere on the earth according to God's system? Anastasia says, Vladimir, right now you're in the taiga. Look around you, how high the trees are, how mighty their trunks. Among the trees, herbs and bushes are growing. There are raspberries and currants. Indeed, a whole lot of everything grows right here in the taiga for man's use. And over thousands of years, not a single person has fertilized the ground, but the land remains fruitful. What do you think? How has it been fertilized and by whom? And he says, by whom? I don't know how or by whom. But you've pointed out a really important fact. Indeed, it's simply amazing how man somehow gets everything twisted around. Tell me yourself, why aren't various kinds of fertilizer needed in the taiga? Anastasia says, here in the taiga, God's thought and God's plan are not interfered with to the same degree as where man lives today. In the taiga, leaves fall from the trees, and little branches are torn off by the breeze. And these leaves and branches, along with worms, fertilize the ground in the taiga. And the grass, which grows all around, regulates the composition of the earth. The bushes help it clear away, excesses of acid and alkalis. None of the fertilizers you're familiar with can substitute for leaves falling from the trees. After all, leaves include many of the diverse energies of the universe. They have seen the stars, the sun and the moon. And not only seen, but they have interacted with them. And even many thousands of years from now, the ground here in the taiga will still be fertile. And Vladimir says, but the ground lot where our house is to be built is not in the taiga, you see? And she says, then start planning. You yourself can plant a forest of different kind of trees. He says, maybe it'd be best if you told me right off how to make it so that the soil on the plot stays fertilized all on its own. That is a major undertaking, since there are so many other things to do. Planting beds, warding off various kinds of pests. She says, of course we could talk about details and particulars, but it would be best for each one to apply his own thought, his soul and his dream to the building work. Each of us knows instinctively what will be the most suitable arrangement for him and bring joy to his children and grandchildren. There can be no single plan that fits it all. Each plan is individual, like a great artist's masterpiece. Each man must make his own. And Vladimir says, but give me an example. At least tell me in general terms. And she says, all right, look, I shall do a little outlining for you. But first, there's the most important thing to understand. Everything is created by God's hand for the good of man. You are a man and can control through your soul what constitutes a real paradise on the earth. And Vladimir says, now more specifically, Anastasia, without philosophing. Tell me what to plant and where. Tell me where I should dig. What cash crops should I grow that will bring me the biggest return on my investment? Anastasia says, Vladimir, do you know why peasants and farmers today are so unhappy? Well, no. Why? She says, so many of them are striving to bring in a harvest as big as they can, to sell. They think more about money than about the land. They themselves do not believe that they can be happy in their own family nest. They think the rest of the people are happy in the big cities. Believe me, Vladimir, what is created in your soul will unfailingly be reflected in the whole world around you. And she continues, of course, outward details are also necessary. Let us think together about one way we can plan out our plot. I shall simply start things rolling, and you help me on your part. He says, okay, I'll help. You start. She says, let us say our lot is on a barren section of land and is now enclosed on all sides by a hedge. Let us divide it, reserving half or 3/4 of the lot for a forest, and there plant a variety of trees. On the edge of the forest, where it borders on the remaining part of the lot, we shall plant a hedge in such a way that animals cannot pass through it and trample the crops growing in the garden plot. In the forest we shall set up a pen, using densely planted saplings, which in time will be home for a goat or two. And we shall also use saplings to construct a shelter for egg-laying hens. Note, Kess, if chicken have access to trees with many branches, they don't need a fence and can protect themselves. And if there are goats, they'll protect the chicken too, In the garden plot we shall make a pond, approximately 16 meters across. We shall plant raspberry and currant bushes among the trees in the forest, and wild strawberries around the edge. Later, after the trees in the forest have grown a little, we can set up 2 or 3 empty log hives there for bees. Note on the pond. Placing a pond near the vegetable beds makes sense because it will reflect the sunlight in many directions and bring more warmth to the fertile ground. And we shall use trees to make a gazebo, where you will have a cool place, safe from the heat, to talk with your children or your friends. And we can make a summer sleeping area out of living things. Along with a creative workshop for you. And sleeping places for the children, and a living room. Vladimir says, "Wow, it won't be a forest we end up with, but more of a palace." She says, "Only the palace will be a living eternity and continue to grow in perpetuity." This is how the Creator himself thought up the whole balance of things. And all man has to do is to assign everything its task, according to his own taste, design and understanding. And he says, "But why didn't the Creator do it all this way to begin with? Everything in the forest grows just where it happens to end up." And she says, "Think of the forest as a book for you, as a creator. Look more closely, Vladimir. Everything therein has been written by the Father. Look over there. 3 trees are growing just half a meter apart. You're free to plant them in a row and use a whole lot of them to make up other configurations. In among the trees there are bushes growing. Think of how you can make use of them to sweeten your life. And where the tree do not allow grass and bushes to grow between them, you can take it as a lesson for building your future house out of living materials. It is as though all of you have to do is to formulate the required program and adjust it according to your taste. Everything around you is charged with the task of cherishing and delighting you and your children, cherishing and feeding them." And Vladimir says, "To feed ourselves, we will need to plant a vegetable garden, and that will take a lot of sweat." And Anastasia says, "Believe me, Vladimir, even the vegetable garden can be set up so that it will be not an aggravation. You just need to keep everything under observation. Among the herbs, just the way everything grows in the forest, you could have the most splendid tomatoes and cucumbers under cultivation. Their taste will be much more appealing and healthful for the body than when they are grown simply on a patch of bare ground." And he asks, "But what about the weeds? And won't they be destroyed by pests and beetles?" She says, "There is nothing useless in nature, Vladimir, and there are no purposeless weeds. Neither are there any beetles that are harmful to man." He says, "What do you mean there aren't any harmful beetles? Take locusts, for example, or the Colorado beetle, a real vermin that eats away at potato crops in the fields." She says, "Yes, it does. It is also thereby showing people how their ignorance is eating away at the self-sufficiency of the earth, contradicting the designs of the divine Creator. How can people keep stubbornly plowing year after year in one and the same place, torturing the ground? It's like scraping an open wound, at the same time demanding benefits from the wound. Locusts or the Colorado beetle will not touch the ground lot which you and I have outlined. When everything grows together in one grand harmony, the fruits occurring to the owner are also harmonious. And Vladimir says, but if that's the way everything is going to ultimately turn out, meaning on the lot you have thought up, there is no need for man to fertilize the ground or fight off vermin with various kinds of poisons or do weeding, and everything is just going to grow and all by itself, then what is there left for man to do? Anastasia says, live in paradise, the way God wanted us to. Anyone who is able to build himself a paradise like that will come into contact with the divine thought and produce a new co-creation together with him. He asks, what new co-creation? She says, its turn will come, once the creation of paradise has been completed in due course. Let us consider now what you and I still need to do. Chapter 28. Home. Vladimir continues. We still have to build ourselves a decent home, I observed. A place for our children and grandchildren to live, problem-free. A 2-story brick manor house with a toilet, bathroom and hot water heater. You can do that for any private home these days. I was at a building fair recently and noticed how a lot of different facilities have been developed for conveniences in our private homes. Or are you again going to object that we don't need to use any technological gadgets? Anastasia says, on the contrary, they are necessary. You need to make everything serve the cause of good, as the opportunity presents itself. Besides, it is important that there be a smooth transition in people's habits. Only your grandchildren will not need the kind of home you are building. They will understand on their own as they grow up. They will need another kind of home. That is why it is not worthwhile spending too much effort to make the house extremely big or solid. And he says, Anastasia, I can tell you've got another sly trick up your sleeve. You keep rejecting everything I propose, even the house. I think there is no question, but it should be a decent house. You said we would be designing this project together, and here you're thwarting me at every turn, no matter what I say. And she says, of course we are doing it together, Vladimir. Besides, I am not rejecting anything. I am simply expressing my views. And each one must decide for himself what comes closest to his own taste. And he says, you should have told me a little more about your views right off. I don't think anyone is going to understand why the house should not stay the way it is for the grandchildren. She says, the other home will still preserve their love for you and their everlasting memories of you. When your grandchildren grow up, they will understand which materials out of all the ones thought up on the earth will be the most pleasant, solid and useful for them. Right now, you do not have those kind of materials. Your grandchildren will build a wooden house using those trees which their grandfather planted way back when, and which their father and mother so loved. That home will start curing them. It will keep them from impurities and inspire them to what is bright. The grand energy of love will dwell in that home. And Vladimir says, yes, interesting. A home made of materials of the trees cultivated by their grandfather and their father and their mother. And you say it will help protect those living in this home? How? There's some kind of mysticism involved here. And she says, why would you call the bright energy of love mysticism, Vladimir? He says, because not everything is clear to me. Here I've been talking about designing a home and a ground lot, and now you've all of a sudden started stating things about love. And she says, but why all of a sudden? You have to create everything with love, right from the start. And he says, what? The living fence too? And you would have to plant the saplings in the forest with love too? And she says, of course. The grand energy of love and all the planets in creation will help you lead a full life, a life inherent in a Son of God. And he says, now you really started talking incomprehensibly, Anastasia. From a house in a garden, you've gone back to God again. What relation could there possibly be here? And she says, forgive me for not being clearer in my explanation, Vladimir. Allow me to try a different route in trying to explain the significance of our project. And he says, go ahead. Only it turns out it's your project, not ours. And she says, it belongs to everyone, Vladimir. Many people will sense it intuitively in their hearts. But man will be prevented from grasping its specific details by fly-by-night dogmas, sounds of the technocratic way of doing things, and the many scientific disciplines that are attempting to lead people away from happiness. And he says, all the more reason for you to try putting everything in more specific terms. And she says, all right, I shall try. Oh, how I wish my explanations could be clearer to people. Oh, how I wish they could. O logic of divine aspirations, help me choose phrases and word combinations that will be more clearly understood. Chapter 29. The Energy of Love. Anastasia says, the great energy of love is sent to the earth by God for His children. It comes to each of them at one time or another. It frequently tries to cheer man with its warmth and stay near him forever. But most people do not give the great divine energy the opportunity of remaining with them for long. Imagine a couple where he and she meet at one point in the resplendent radiance of love. They endeavor to join their lives together in perpetuity. They consider that their union will be made more solid if affirmed on paper and by ritual in front of a large gathering of witnesses. but all to no avail. It takes but a few days for the energy of love to fade from their lives. And it happens that way with just about everyone. Vladimir says, "Yes, you are right, Anastasia. A tremendous number of people get divorced, about 70%. And it often happens that those who don't get divorced end up living like a dog and a cat together, or show complete indifference to each other. Everybody knows this, but nobody can figure out why it happens on such a massive scale. You claim the energy of love fades from their lives, but why? As though it were somehow aiming to tease everyone or playing some kind of game it's invented." And she says, "Love does not tease anyone, and it does not play games. It tries to stay with everyone forever, but man chooses his own way of life. And this way of life frightens the energy of love. Love cannot give inspiration to annihilation. It is unseemly for the offspring of love to live in torment when he and she are beginning to build a new life together, when they are endeavoring to establish a home in an apartment resembling a vault of lifeless stone, when each has their own work and interests and their own environment, when there is no common vision of the future, no conjugal aspirations, when their bodies are attracted by mere fleshly alleviation, only to hand over their child to the cruel ways of a world devoid of clean water, a world filled with bandits, wars and disease. It is from this that the energy of love flees." And he says, "But what if he and she have lots of money? Or the parents give the newlyweds, instead of a tiny flat, say a 6-room apartment in a fancy modern block with a guard on duty at the entrance. And they give them a fine car and deposit lots of money into their bank account. Would the energy of love agree to remain under those conditions? Could he and she live her whole life in love?" Anastasia says, "Then they will be obliged to live their lives to the end of their years in cold fear, deprived of love and freedom, and watch everything around them grow old and rot." And Vladimir says, "So what exactly does this finchal energy of love require?" And she says, "Love is not finky or obstinate. It aspires to the divine creation. It can forever warm the heart of one who agrees to co-create with it a space of love." And he asks, "And is there a space of love somewhere in the design you have come up with?" "Yes." "And where is it?" She says, "It is in everything. First it is born for the couple, then again for their children, and through 3 planes of being, the children will have a connection with the whole universe. Imagine, Vladimir, that he and she will begin in their love to implement this design that you and I are outlining. They will plant family trees and herbs in the ground, together with an orchard. And how happy they will be in the spring when their co-creations burst forth into bloom. Love will eternally dwell between them, in their hearts, all around. And each will see the other in a spring flower, remembering how they planted a flowering tree together. And the taste of raspberries will remind them of the taste of love, since in the autumn he and she, in love for each other, touched the twig of a raspberry bush. In the shady orchard, splendid fruit is ripening, and the orchard was planted jointly by he and she. They planted the orchard in love. She laughed resoundingly when he dug a hole, and perspiration covered his brow, and she wiped it off with her hand and planted a kiss on his burning lips. It often happens in life that only one of the partners is in love, while their mate simply tolerates the other's presence. Once they start working on the orchard, the energy of love will multiply itself and never forsake either of them. After all, their way of life will help them both live their lives in love and convey the space of love to their children in continuation, and help them raise their children together with God in His image and likeness. And here comes the footnote that was placed around when she mentioned gardeners, techniques, because it unfolds into 10 pages or something add-on that is just in between these chapters that I just read. And yeah, they want to be seen. It's beautiful pictures that also can be found here. Footnote: techniques, people who spend time, their days off, especially summer holidays, tending a garden as their dacha or cottage in the country. A raspberry living fence grown by Sergei and Vera Bondar, Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. In addition to producing abundant harvests of raspberries, this maintenance-free hedge protects the garden from winds, attracts birds that naturally control pests, and keeps unwanted visitors out. Picture below. Kin's Domain Design 2003 by Irina Labontsova, Zapolyani Eco-Village. In response to Anastasia's plea, thousands of people all across Russia and beyond have created designs of their family domains and started turning them into reality. And here this special add-on continues. Plan of the Solnishko Sunshine Community composed of kin domains. And there are more kin domains by several people in form of picture. True to Anastasia's promise, new homes have sprouted all across Russia, as thousands of people inspired by her dream start to lay foundations for their family domains, or bring dying villages back to life. Here's another picture. A Build Your Home Wonder Cake, representing a small-scale model of a kin's domain, complete with a living fence and garden plantings, becomes a festive table centerpiece in the Kovchek Eco-Village, Kalunga region during a celebration on 16 September 2006. And the other picture, young girls in search for their intended mate set small rafts afloat during a Find Your Soulmate festival in the Rodovö Eco-Community, Tula region. For a description of this ancient ritual and its significance, see Chapter 5 in Book 6 of the Ringing Cedars series. And this picture, Daknik Day celebration at the Rodny Eco-Village, Vladimir region, July 23, 2006. Residents of Rodny and nearby eco-villages, along with numerous guests, share greens, vegetables and fruit they have grown themselves on their plots. The Daknik Day holiday, proposed in Book 2 of the Ringing Cedars series to honor the millions of gardeners and celebrate man's connectedness to the earth, is now celebrated by thousands of individuals, families, and communities throughout Russia and beyond. Here another picture, new homes and residents of the Rednoe eco-village Vladimir region. And the other one, Republic of Mary El Russia attract visitors to a permaculture workshop. Mixed permaculture plantings in Vasily and Marina's garden. Like millions of other food gardeners throughout Russia, this family uses no chemical fertilizers or pesticides, yet manages to grow abundant harvests in a climate with a growing season of only 110 days. And here is a really dense and worthful note in this expansion about what is already happening. According to official statistics in 2005, Russian gardeners using less than 3% of the country's agricultural land produced over 53% of the nation's agricultural output, more than all the commercial producers taken together. And this was back in 2006. Yes, this was the about 10 pages add-on in this English version of the Anastasia creation book.